indicates too. So, the guy, I understand he's a new face of that franchise. I get it, but he has to let his play talk for him. He just
Well,
does.
part of one of the things to remember from this game on Monday is that he threw two interceptions. The first one was on him. He was kind of getting hit as he threw it, couldn't get enough on it, and ended up falling into Richard Sherman's arms about 5 yards short of his wide receiver. The second one, in the red zone, basically it was a touchdown that Antonio Callaway had in his hands, bobbled, it popped up in the air, went right to the defender who ran it out to, the 30 or 40 yard line. So the second one wasn't on him. The first one definitely was. But again, I'm with you. If you can't continually back up your play, shut up and start playing.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, that's where a lot of his problems are. You mean nobody's going to sit here and tell me that Nick Bosa was looking to play patty cake Baker's man with a guy that made an idiot out of himself like 2 years ago with that so-called antic about doing what he did to the Buckeyes on the field. You can't do that stuff in this league. You're a men against men now, okay? And you have a bullseye in your chest and you pull that stuff. You just can't do it. And this guy here is going to find out that humble pie tastes pretty lousy, doesn't it? Especially knowing full well that you may have surprised a lot of teams the first year, but now they've got game film on you. And they know what your tendencies are, and they know what your strengths are, and they certainly know your weaknesses. Again, I always hate to say there's a sophomore jinx, but there's a I've gotten used to you factor, and we'll be able to, you have different defensive coordinators gunning for you, and position coaches that are going to be looking to take away what your strengths are.
I think one thing to remember also is that this is Freddie Kitchens' first year as a head coach. So he's not just the offensive. I mean, he was the running backs coach that got promoted to being the offensive coordinator, and then to become the offensive coordinator under Greg Williams,
right?
And then became the head coach in the off season when they let Greg Williams go to I want to say the Jets to become the defensive coordinator. And Williams, I think Williams is a very good head coach personality.
Right.
I think the Kitchens may be struggling with being both an offensive coordinator and a head coach. I think if he was just the offensive coordinator, I think they'd be doing better. And Greg Williams is a phenomenal defensive coach.
Right.
And I think that the defense has really struggled, and I think part of it's the coaching, but also their top two corners and one of their two safeties. Those three guys have been out the last 3 or 4 weeks, which has caused some problems with the defense as well. And if the defense isn't able to stop anyone, it's hard for the offense to get rid of them as well.
Ryan, I am so glad you brought Greg Williams up. I think that he had a pretty decent run last year to get that team turned around after they let Hugh Jackson go, and he should have gotten a head coaching job. I don't think Kitchens should have gotten it, and I'll say it again. I believe that Kitchens is a 1-year and done head coach. But I think they made a major mistake by not letting Greg Williams take the full-time gig. I really do. That's my opinion, and we'll see how it all plays out. All right, let's talk about the Texans and the Chiefs. You obviously feel this is going to be a flying fun contest to watch. So tell me, does DeAndre Hopkins have a breakout game? I know he's been relatively silent the last couple weeks.
Anemic, I think is the best way to.
Well, anemic
is
better.
Way to put it.
Okay, well then we'll use that word, anemic. Is this a game where DeAndre Hopkins has a breakout game?
I think that he could. Again, the defense for the Chiefs has struggled. You look, they played pretty well defensively against the Colts on Sunday Night Football. However, in that game, they had Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback, and Jacoby Brissett is a good, solid quarterback, but he's not Deshaun Watson. He doesn't have Deshaun Watson's arm. He doesn't have Deshaun Watson's awareness. And so I think that that Hopkins could put up a very, very good game this next week. And just looking at everyone who's possibly going to be playing, both Mahomes believe Tyreek Hill both practiced today, so it's very possible that Tyreek Hill comes back this week. The Chiefs had to deal last week with not only was Tyreek Hill out, but Sammy Watkins hurt his hamstrings, was out after, I want to say, in the middle of the first quarter. So they were down to Mecole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, and whatever Pringle as their three wide receivers and three wide receiver sets. They were kind of in trouble from the beginning. I think everyone, as far as I can tell, is looking pretty healthy for this week. And so with how the Houston team, with the Houston defense has struggled in the secondary, and then the Chiefs defense can struggle as well. Again, I think this could be a high-flying, high-scoring game for everyone.
Okay, but let's get back to Hopkins. Do you think that this is a breakout week for him?
Yes, I do think that this is a very good breakout week for him. I don't necessarily think that he'll put up 150 to 175 yards and 2 or 3 TDs, but honestly, for me, I think a solid breakout game from DeAndre Hopkins would be 8 catches, 120 and 1.
I won't complain about that. I have him. Why do you think I pick your brain? All right, so let's go on to a couple of other notes that I've come up with, okay?
Yep.
Detroit Lions head coach Matt Patricia seems to be more nervous about how they're going to play Aaron Rodgers after the quarterback lost twice to the Lions in 2018. You feel that that's justified?
I do. You look at Aaron Rodgers and what he's been able to do, and again, this offense. I think the reason to fear Aaron Rodgers is more going to have to do with whether or not Davante Adams plays. If Davante Adams does not play, the wide receivers for Green Bay just are not as good as everyone was hoping. You look at Geronimo Allison and Marquez Valdez-Scantling last week, and they were able to do a little bit, but almost everything was on Aaron Jones' shoulders. Running for, I think he finished with well over 200 yards on his own and 4 touchdowns. His ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, he was running through gaps like crazy, and they were doing that in Dallas, which was great to see as someone who doesn't really like the Dallas Cowboys. But I think that again, Aaron Rodgers' ability to throw the ball all over the place is going to mostly depend on Davante Adams being healthy.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, Brian Flores made the decision today that Josh Rosen is going to start the rest of the year. Probably the worst kept secret on the planet. Basically, Josh Rosen has 11 games to prove that he earns a job, or for all I know, they could keep him next year as a backup. What are your thoughts about that?
At this point, why wouldn't they? I mean, they're what, 0-5, about to go. Well, who knows in this game with the Miami Dolphins and the Washington Redskins playing in the Tank Bowl. It'll definitely be interesting to see how this game goes. I don't see any reason not to start Josh Rosen for the rest of the year, to actually see if he's going to be your possible quarterback of the future. I think that he is talented. He was dealt a rough blow his first season in Arizona,
right,
with his head coach getting fired. I think that the Miami brass is in this enough for the long haul with this head coach.
5 years.
That I don't think that Rosen suffers the same fate that he did last year.
Right.
So it very well could be that he is still going to be the starting quarterback next year, and maybe they go a different route other than quarterback, even though there are some great ones coming in this draft. But I think that for Josh Rosen, this is the best case scenario for him, and hopefully he's able to take advantage and build some chemistry with those wide receivers to hopefully change some people's minds about it.
Well, Flores, first of all, is on a 5-year contract, so yeah, he does have job security. Number 2, I do believe that Miami will take a top quarterback no matter what. But so Rosen could be a backup, but I think that Rosen's in a much better place in Miami than he was certainly in Arizona. And of course, that leads up to my next point. Since we're talking about the Dolphins, they take on the Washington Redskins. Case Keenum is expected to start Week 6. I guess that's probably a good move, knowing that they need a win and the Dolphins need a win. So unless there's a tie, and you still had two winless teams here at 0-5-1, I think Bill Callahan definitely feels that Keenum gives him his best chance to win this weekend. So is the Case Keenum move a good move for the Washington Redskins?
I think it is. Looking at this again from a fantasy perspective, Case Keenum is going up against a very bad defense. And so that, in my opinion, as far as like a DFS play on DraftKings or FanDuel, that Keenum starting is a good option for an extreme value play for someone who could possibly put up some decent numbers for you. I think it is the best option for the Redskins in general. I think it'll help Terry McLaurin, because of Keenum able to find McLaurin as much as he did in the first 3 weeks of the season. I think that I believe I actually saw there was an article that I don't know if it was just rumor or hearsay or if it was an actual report that someone within the Redskins organization stated, whether it was a head coach or an assistant, or whether it was an assistant coach or just a coordinator or something, basically heard them say that Dwayne Haskins is at least 1, if not 2 years away from being ready to think about starting, because he can't read the defense. He's having trouble calling the plays in the huddle, and so Keenum is right now the best option for the Redskins.
Of course, you got Colt McCoy back there as well. And let's not kid ourselves. On the next two programs following years, there'll be a lot of conversation about the Washington Redskins. But yeah, I mean, when you draft a guy, you know that the Haskins pick was all Daniel Snyder, anyways.
Yes, and I've seen the reports that Jay Gruden didn't want him. That was all on Daniel Snyder, and really, there were a lot of teams that were, you think about all the people that laughed about the Giants taking Daniel Jones at 6, and you think now, well, it's actually looking like a pretty darn good pick, especially with what's happening with Haskins in Washington.
Well, let's face the reality. Jones was tutored by David Cutcliffe out there. The Mannings weren't too far back there, and he's a more experienced college quarterback with a coach that certainly mentored him. I think a lot of people should be biting their tongue about the criticism levied against the New York Giants, because I think it was unwarranted. It should never have happened. That's when you know you have a good scouting department, your coaching staff, they had a good feel for the guy. And, for those individuals that are looking for guys that have 1 year experience, because that's great. How did Cardale Jones do, when he had a limited amount of experience? He's floated around the league too. So, do you see a trend here that we're not looking for quick wonders? No, you're looking for guys that have held the clipboard back and had some success, that have a bigger body of work than what you've seen there. And that's why the Giants look good and the Redskins don't look very good.
Correct. And really it's been very interesting to see, over the years, the amount of quarterbacks who, again, lack the experience in college, and just, have only started the 1 year, who, end up fizzling out in the pros, even if it's been one great year. Another guy to look at and think about in terms of only having 1 year as a starter is Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago. Mm-hmm. Only started the one season, his senior year in North Carolina. So
right. Yeah, well, Trubisky's turned out pretty well, though. I got to give him credit. But then again, it all talks about where you drafted and the type of offensive people you have around you as well. Trubisky turned out all right. In fact, not only did he turn all right, the Bears wanted him bad enough they didn't mind giving the 49ers an extra pick if that's who they identified as their signal caller, knowing full well that the Chicago quarterbacks over the years haven't been overly that stable either, despite a winning quarterback. And Jim McMahon, you still had a lot of turnover at that position after that.
Yeah, I think that Trubisky has been okay so far, but he is definitely